Hello, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis Teens. I'm here today with Mr. Chris Long, who is the founder and CEO of Radius Reality, which is a top 10 real estate company in St. Louis. So, first off, I would like to thank you and Radius Reality for your continued service to the community during these difficult times. Given the current situation in terms of the coronavirus outbreak, how has your life changed? Both personally and at work.
Um, Personally, it's been interesting. I happen to live in a multi-generational house, and my husband's a physician, and so there's a little bit more concern, I'll say, from spread. So we've been trying to keep um, social distancing and more hunkering at home, hunkering down at home and stuff, as opposed to going out and doing a lot. We still try to get out for the occasional walk, though the weather's been beautiful here the last couple of days, so that's at least nice.
Yeah.
From a work perspective, we shifted full work from home towards the end of March for office staff. So my life has been a little bit more virtual. Um, I have a fairly heavy tech background, and so we were already fairly integrated into technology to facilitate communications and video and things like that. So we were already doing that to a certain degree. We just implemented it full time, switched our phones over, and have been sort of office staff is working at home, field staff is still doing things out in the field, but they're doing it with some special guidelines, if you will, as opposed to anything. The biggest thing that most of my staff has had to sort of accommodate is not necessarily the work from home, but
Right.
it's more of the caring for kids while working from home type
Right.
of thing, because most of them have kids that are in school during this time period, and so balancing that a little bit has been a little difficult. But
So I know you sort of talked about working from home and integrating your company within technology. So are there any other additional measures that you are taking at Radius Reality to sort of avoid the spread of the virus?
yeah, we have. So Radius has three different branches of business. So we have traditional brokerage where we help people buy and sell property. We have property management where we help people manage the properties that they have for investment. And then we have a construction company. And so for each of those different businesses, we do something slightly different. If you're talking about the brokerage side of the house, we already have what we call virtual tours anyway. So we
Okay.
use Matterport 3D scanning for new
Wow.
homes. So we did that mostly because a lot of my clientele are out of state and out of
Okay.
country, and so they want to be able to see this wherever they're at. So
Right.
we just flip that on basically for all of our properties that we're doing, that we're going to market. We don't do open houses anymore on any residential properties. We do still have the properties for viewing, but we don't allow overlapping in the appointments or anything like that. So we're trying to keep it as safe as possible. When we go to do showings, I've instructed the agents to sit in their car and allow the folks to walk through the property, open the doors, wipe things down, but then allow the client to go walk through the property to view it, come out, talk to them over the phone while they're in the house, do things much more virtual,
Okay.
similar to what we're doing here,
Yeah.
doing a FaceTime call, things like that, as they're sort of looking at the property itself. When we're talking about property management, it's a little bit different. I'll say we have two areas that are field based. So we have maintenance techs and we have leasing agents. Um, the leasing side of the house has slowed down tremendously. People are renewing their leases as opposed to moving more. So we haven't seen as much output from that side of the house. But when we
Okay.
do have showings, we're doing the same thing on the brokerage side where the leasing agent will go there ahead of time, open the door, allow somebody to walk through it, do video and conference calls. So we're avoiding that person to person contact.
Okay.
Um, when it comes to maintenance calls, it's a little bit more difficult. So when tenants log into their online portal or they call into the 24/7 call center for a maintenance ticket, they're going to be instructed to basically, hey, have you been sick in the last 2 weeks? Have you been in contact with anybody who has been sick? Have you been out of the country within the last 2 weeks? If you answer yes to any of those questions, then we ask that we delay the maintenance ticket until after the COVID-19 event, so that way we don't chance anybody getting sick. When we have, I'll say, maintenance techs out at a property, we have them ask the tenants all those questions, and when they're in submitting a ticket, they'll get those questions as well. So if they answer yes, then they try to say, hey, let's push this until after the COVID-19 event, unless it's an emergency. If it's an emergency, then yeah, we can go ahead and do it, but we'll need you to be outside of the property while we're in there. And they have protective material, so they have gloves, masks, and wipes and sanitizer. I will say procuring those items has been very difficult. We've had a lot of trouble getting those items for staff to use, but we've been good so far keeping a stock of them enough to handle what we have to do. In general, also when they're at the property, they're going to work with the tenants that are there and sort of assess the situation. And they're basically instructed, if they feel unsafe at all, to not enter, to leave and come back at a different time. Construction's a little different. The third leg of the business, they're in vacant properties, and so their chance of engaging with somebody is a lot less. The biggest thing that we've done there is on properties that have we only allow 2 people at a time to work together, and that those folks work together. We try not to swap those people out with other crews or crew groups. Most of them have their own cars and are driving to the site, so we don't have to worry about that truck sort of engagement there. So it's mostly when they're at site, and we've been making sure to give them masks and gloves to where they're as safe as possible while they're working at the job site.
So, as a student interested in economics and finance, I'm interested in what kinds of patterns you have noticed in your business in terms of real estate sales and prices, and what do you think is driving those changes currently in our current situation?
There's a lot of nervousness right now, I will say. With that, I've seen things that are going on market are selling relatively quick. I had somebody who put a property on market 2 days ago, and it was under contract within 12 hours. So things are still going really, really quick. People are still viewing them. The overall trend, and this was as of the end of February. I don't think the March data is quite out yet, but I'll double check that here soon. But at the end of February, the housing stock in the St. Louis area was down to the lowest level we've seen since 2017.
Wow.
So it's really low housing stock availability. Prices were at the highest level we've seen since 2017. I don't think that's going to change. If anything, I think housing stock is going to continue to go down, which will drive prices up even further. So if you're looking to sell, now is not a bad time to do it. You just have to put into effect safety measures. Now, the flip side of that is financing, getting money for the sale and the purchase of the house, which there has been some issue with that. I've seen some of the some banks and some of the government entities like FHA, if you have a credit score below 650, you're going to have a hard time getting a loan no matter what. So it's retrenching on those folks who have, I'll say, have to rely upon a little bit lower credit score in order to get that financing that they need. So they're not going to be able to purchase right now, but there's still movement, a significant amount of it with a 650 plus credit score going forward. So
what questions have you had from customers because of this virus?
The number one question is from my property management side, and it's from owners who are very nervous about tenants paying for rent, and wanting to make sure that they're able to, because most of the owners that I represent are just like everybody else. They're just a mom and pop that use real estate as a way to help them during their retirement or after retirement, and so they're very concerned because this then puts that retirement potential at risk. What I've seen with that is, and what we've tried to do with our tenants to help alleviate that issue, is sort of helping guide them to where they can file for unemployment, making sure that they have filed for unemployment, let them know about any other support systems that are out there for them. From a numbers perspective, we've seen payment of roughly 80% of our portfolio paying in, which is lower than normal, but still not as low as I anticipated it to be during this time period. So tenants are still paying the rent, and those that are not, that are having a COVID-19 related hardship, we have a document that they fill out, and they promise to pay it as soon as they get either their stimulus check in or they get the unemployment funds in.
So now, in terms of, you sort of talked about anticipation, looking forward into the future, what kind of things are you looking for with this virus?
It's a very much day by day, see what happens. The big thing right now is you have to be able to pivot. If you see a change, I've had to do it almost daily from my within my staffing model, how I staff different organizations, and being able to shift and change workers as needed to make sure that we're able to still service our clients from a maintenance perspective and stuff like that, shifting them from construction over to maintenance as needed. And I think it's going to continue to be that, because there's so many variables in this that any one change can affect so much. Like if the government had not passed the stimulus package, then I'd be much more worried about rental income coming in. But since that was passed, I'm less worried about it. Now, if the COVID-19 event goes past May or June, then there's going to have to be more support from the government coming in to help that, and we'll see where that sort of goes. But you have to play it day by day. If the stimulus checks don't come in like they're supposed to sometime in April, and if unemployment doesn't start flowing here in April, then we're going to start seeing more concern from more people, and there's going to be a real issue. For the moment, though, most people are okay, at least from the April perspective, with some delay in payment, and we'll see where May goes. We have to be able to handle it just day by day.
And finally, what advice do you have for your customers at this time, and what can we do in order to help support your efforts to contain this outbreak?
My biggest advice is follow the guidelines that are passed by the government. Stay at home. Don't risk anything. The biggest thing is flatten this curve. Let's not overwhelm the hospital systems. Let's make sure that we can get through this all together. I try to help both my tenants and my owners as much as I possibly can on the management side. Keep a steady, level head as you go through this. If you need to change, make changes. If you think that there's going to be a large influx of non-payment, then possibly go into a forbearance on a mortgage that you might have, so that way you have some flexibility with cash right at this point in time. And quite honestly, on the flip side of that, there are going to be situations that people are not going to be able to make ends meet, and they're going to want to sell their property. So if you are in a situation where you're able to purchase, now can be a really good time to do that purchase, because interest rates are at an all-time low. If you have the funds and the means to do that purchase, then go ahead and do it, because you're not going to see it this low, I think, knock wood, in our lifetime again.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for your time and answering all of our questions.
Absolutely. Stay safe.